not 9 years ago, whenever we started going to apartment association events, really just to meet people and try to sell valet trash, we were, scared to death, hiding in the corner, terrified to talk to anybody. And, 8-9 years later, I'm the second term president.
Yeah. You went from being the guy who wanted to take out the trash to being the president. Welcome to the Business Growth Masterclass podcast. I'm Kellen, your host. Here we talk about principles that drive business growth. Each episode, you'll hear top experts share their secrets behind their success and the lessons they've learned along the way. Whether it's streamlining your operations or boosting your profit margins or strategies for reaching new markets, we got you covered. Let's dive in. So today on the podcast, I have my good friend here with me, one of the co-founders here at Stag Business Coaching, Albert Gillispie.
Hello, Kellen.
Hello. We're using these early episodes of our podcast to introduce the team here at Stag Business Coaching. So today we're going to have a chance to dive in with old AG. I don't think I've ever called you AG, but
I love it. I don't hate it.
I mean, do you have a nickname? I don't think I've ever heard anyone call you by a nickname.
No. I say it. My mom was always weird about nicknames. She's like, I named you that. Call you your name. My sister's name is Alexandria. And like everyone wanted to call her Alex or anything but Alexandria, which is like 9 letters long. But no, Albert, okay. I have a nickname.
All right. Well, that's all right. We'll accept you as you are. We've been friends for 10 plus years now?
Yeah.
So obviously I know some things about you, but I don't know if I've asked you all the questions that we wrote down. So I'm expecting to learn some new things today, which will be fun. And of course, anyone who's in the listening audience, or at least a lot of the people, will be surprised by some things, I think. So that'll be fun. I wanted to start out with, a fun one that I think will surprise a lot of people. So you have an adventurous side, and you also have a hidden talent that goes way back to your younger days.
Okay.
I think you know what I'm getting at here. You want to read my mind and tell me what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the Rodeo Career?
Yeah. Okay. So we want to hear about your first love, your first business career, or your first career, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So that bull riding was my sport. You can't tell on through the radio right now or through your headphones, but I'm not a big person. There's not a lot of big people in my family. And so a lot of sports I'm just not built for, but one of them, I'm a little bit built like a jockey. So,
but a different kind of jockey,
different kind of jockey, much less highbrow, a lot poorer end of the rodeo arena. But yeah, I grew up riding bulls. My dad and uncle rode bulls growing up and in high school. And so just kind of watched it on TV growing up. When I was little, 8 Seconds came out.
You ever get stepped on?
Oh yeah. Anybody that rides for any, length of time, you get stepped on all the time. So
what was the most painful stepped on, or what was a bad one?
Okay. This is, I got knocked out a couple of times growing up, and there's some good stories there, but one of them, this one was colorful for everybody involved. In rodeo, you kind of work your way up to a size of animal. And so, the little kids, they ride sheep, then you get on calves, then you get on steers, then you get on yearling bulls, which are, 1,000 to 1,400 pounds. And then, at that point it's a full size bull.
Which is how many pounds?
Between 1,400 and 2,000 pounds.
Oh man. And have that step on you.
A full grown bull. And so the transition to full size bulls, I was probably 12 or 13, 13-ish. And anyway, and so it was the year that I made that full size transition. And
Mama Gillispie was brave.
Oh, yeah. And so one of the early rodeos, I got, thrown down pretty hard, and the bull came down with his back foot like in the middle of my thigh. And it was all, it was well known, you do not lay down in that arena. You get out of that arena and you can go back behind the chutes and cry and throw a fit, do whatever, but you don't lay down in that arena.
Yeah.
And I didn't move. And which was, there's plenty of kids that, lay there.
Yeah.
But that just got beat into me that you don't do that. And so I didn't move. And so all the paramedics come running in, they take my boot off. They're asking me to wiggle my toes, and I'm laying back. They're not letting me look at anything. And so I'm laying back, and I'm like, yep, I'm moving. Like, okay, move your foot. Like, okay, I'm moving it. Come to find out, I wasn't moving anything.
What?
But I thought I was. And so they get the stretcher.
That is scary.
Tie me down to the stretcher, carry me out of the, this long roping arena. So it's just this long, bumpy ride that's hilarious in hindsight, because it's just painful because your body hurts and they're just bouncing.
Yeah.
So get into the ambulance. They cut my pants off, and 10 minutes later, I'm like moving my feet normal.
Man, thank goodness.
But what had happened was the bull stepped on my thigh and had compressed my sciatic nerve.
Wow.
And so there was like kind of brief paralysis of, the lower half of my leg. And anyway, and so I obviously had a pretty severe limp and limped across the grandstands back to pick up my rigging bag. And I get there, and behind the chutes, like it's, moms don't go back there.
Okay.
And my mom was waiting on me.
Oh, man.
And just a stern look on her face. And all my buddies knew, all right, something's about to happen. And so I walk back there, and she says, if you ever lay in that arena again, you better be bleeding, or there better be bones sticking out of your leg. And lesson learned. I mean, looking back now, she can't believe we did that growing up. But that was just the life we knew, and it scared her.
That's a Texas mom right there.
Yeah.
And like other places that are like, mom would be like, I don't think we should do this anymore. But your mom's like, you better be dead. That's amazing. Sorry, I cut you off. What were you saying?
I mean, it was an exciting, huge, my entire thigh was just, dark purple.
And you're 12?
Yeah, 12 or 13, something like that, in junior high.
And that wasn't retirement. You just moved on. You just kept going.
I mean, that's just part of it. You got,
wow,
stepped on pretty regularly.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, you got to be tough. Do that.
If you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough.
Well, so you started at what age?
I started riding when I was 16 and rode until my freshman year of college.
Wait. But you said,
did I say 16? Yeah. I meant I started when I was 6.
Okay.
6. I started when I was 6.
Wow.
And rode until I was 19, my freshman year of college.
Wow. That's a long time. 6. So you were mutton busting?
I never rode sheep. I started off on calves and
skipped right to the calves.
Yeah, it's just, that's the age that you ride calves. And that was our sport. My family would load up in the Gillispie mobile and drive around all over Texas and Oklahoma.
You must have been pretty good then.
I mean, that was my sport. It was what we practiced, and, had some success. My dad paid taxes on me from when I was 7. He started having to file 1099s on a 7-year-old. So it was fun.
Moneymaker. So like, how successful were you? Like, to what? You're going on these circuits, so you must have been pretty good.
I mean, it was a lot of youth rodeo, being from the Fort Worth area is kind of the mecca of rodeo. A lot of, the legends of the sport live in that area. And so, I went to Cody Lambert's bull riding school, grew up around all of, Jim Sharp, Tough Hedeman, and all of the names that
I even know
that people,
Tough Hedeman.
Yeah. And and so, I mean, on the youth rodeo, won, several state titles, and in high school in the bull riding kind of private leagues, won a couple of, I got second in state twice in high school. And
so you're really good.
I mean, that was one of those, kind of seeing that success opened up doors that I got to see, what does the next level look like? And, a lot of those guys that were legends of the sport, the condition of their body and the quality of life that they had wasn't really what I had in my mind whenever I was a younger kid.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that was pretty sobering. Bull riding is one of those sports that, once it's in your blood, it's addicting, and it's hard to walk away from, and it's hard to, live on the other side of that, because it's such an adrenaline rush. It's such a high. It's such a different experience from, everyday life. But yeah, probably early high school, I realized that, like, okay, this isn't what I want to do.
Not your whole career.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're not all in, you don't need to be on. So,
Yeah.
So that kind of led to moving on from that pretty quick.
If you're not all in, you don't need to be on. I like that. That's a statement I feel like you could put on a wall somewhere. But I feel like I wanted to bring up the bull riding because obviously I knew you were good at it. I don't think I knew you had won state championships and done second place several times. So, I mean, in the state of Texas, if you're going to have a state that's a bull riding mecca, it's probably going to be Texas, at least in the US. So, I mean, I think some of that speaks to kind of your drive and just your personality to begin with, wanting to be the best or do great things. And so I feel like that's a good segue to just talking about now. Maybe you could help us bridge the gap from, early days to now. But can you just tell us a little bit about, what you do now? Obviously, I introduced that you're one of the partners here at Stag Business Coaching, but you've got your hands in a lot of other ventures. So could you just tell the listeners kind of what you are up to?
Sure. Yeah, I am one of the principals of Stag Capital, and Stag Capital is a private investing firm that invests in commercial real estate as well as small and medium-sized businesses. We have another subsidiary that supports that, which is the West Texas office of Transworld Business Advisors. And so it's a business brokerage that helps business owners sell their business. And then to support that, we have Stag Business Coaching, which helps business owners streamline their operations, optimize their profits, and ultimately create more stable and healthier businesses that in turn makes them more valuable.
Yeah.
And so I really have three businesses that are all synergistic with one another. And, it's a wild ride. It's not a, normal career. It's not a doctor or a lawyer. My parents struggle to describe what I do, but they're proud of me either way.
That's good. I think a lot of people who take a creative or entrepreneurial route, their parents are like, I don't even know what they do. And that's okay. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, especially for people who don't know you well. Can you just tell us about, I know you led with the capital business, and I see that as kind of like the cornerstone of how you got started in entrepreneurship and business ownership. So can you tell us just a little bit about your journey and how you ended up doing that?
Yeah. And it always starts, my story always starts here, which was reading business books. My undergrad, I was a biology major, thought I wanted to be a dentist. The Lord had other plans, thankfully. And I was a good student, but I really had to work on it. Science didn't come natural. Science was a lot of work for me. But after I didn't get into dental school, I had a couple of buddies that gave me some business books to read. And I was fascinated. I was hooked pretty quickly.
Which books were they? Do you remember?
The first, I don't even know if you would technically call it a business book, but the first kind of nonfiction self-improvement book was Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah, I know that one.
And
it's a fun read.
Oh yeah. I was hooked. I was like, man, this reading is so much less work. This is so interesting.
Is that the 10,000 Hours book? Is that the book where he talks about that principle?
He had a trilogy that was like Tipping Point.
Yeah. So maybe it's
Outliers, and I can't remember the other, but yeah, that was Malcolm Gladwell.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, me and a buddy, we were working at a medical device company, which was like a college job, padding the resume, trying to get into dental school.
Mm-hmm.
And we started reading books together. And one of them was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it's one of the original business books, one of the original self-development books written in the 30s. And the main concept from that was the mastermind. It was to form a mastermind, which is a group of like-minded people that meet regularly and hold each other accountable to what you say you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a big goal setting person.
Yeah.
I've always, had little sticky notes and pieces of paper or writing on my mirror in my bathroom where I'm writing goals and chasing them down. And so we read that book and said, let's do what it says. So we formed a mastermind group. We were all recently graduated from college, recently married. And so we all had, we were in debt up to our eyeballs.
Yeah.
And we were big Dave Ramsey guys. We're Dave Ramsey disciples. And
Stuffing money into envelopes.
oh yeah.
Keeping your budget.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We still have it. But he had a group that he met with that he called his Eagles group. And he had a cheesy radio tagline that was, he wanted to soar with eagles instead of flock with turkeys. And so we stole all of that. And pretty quickly, all of us got out of debt. And then that group became a small business incubator where you would come, you would have an idea, you would read a book, you would go to a conference, and you would have this idea of a business to start. And then you would bring it to the group, and the group would poke holes in it, either tell you don't do it or go after it, and help connect you to people that could help, bring the idea into fruition. And so me and one of my buddies, Tanner, started flipping houses and buying duplexes. And that I really, I guess, taking a step back, the idea of investing in real estate was something that hit me, in my early teens. Growing up, my family did not have much money. And so grew up in a pretty, working class neighborhood just north of Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our neighbors was a landscaper, mowed yards for a living. And one day he was loading equipment up in the back of his pickup and was asking me to help him. So I was helping him, and we got to talking, and he told me that he owned 100 rent houses.
Wow. That's a lot.
That's a lot
in a landscaper.
Yeah. And so as a 13-year-old, I didn't know, I couldn't fathom that.
Yeah.
But it was this like blue collar working class guy, just an honest guy that had built an empire.
Figured something out there.
Right. And so that had been in the back of my mind. He modeled that for me, that real estate was something that I wanted to look into. And so
that's awesome.
We started flipping houses, buying duplexes. And then we tried to start a valet trash business.
Okay. What's a valet trash business? Hold on. Tell us about this.
Okay. Valet trash is essentially a service that you pay for when you live in an apartment complex, where a service comes and takes the trash from your door to the on-site dumpster.
Okay.
And so it's a problem, especially in student housing. A lot of the new student housing developments are like they're resorts. They're so nice. And so, there's 2 towers of apartments, and then there's a parking garage, and in the back dim lit corner is a dumpster that they expect some 19-year-old girl at 10 o'clock at night to take her trash all the way to the dark corner. And so it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. And so you have these resorts, and you walk up and down the halls, and they're filthy. There's trash and pizza boxes and all kinds of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, people just throwing their stuff outside the front door.
Yeah,
to bother with it later.
Yep. And so that service is pretty popular in most of the major markets. It wasn't in Lubbock at the time. And so me and Tanner, for probably 10 months, met every lunch break at a different apartment complex and pitched valet trash. And we called it collecting our no's, because we just got told no over and over and over. But
let's go collect some more no's.
That story of my life. But we started meeting with leasing agents, and then managers, and then regional managers, and then owners. And inadvertently, the owners were teaching us how to not only value commercial real estate, but how to add value to commercial real estate.
Just from the conversations you would have about valet trash, they would share other things with you.
Exactly. It was, hey, it's no for me, but this is how you pitch it to the next guy.
Okay.
And they took the time to kind of show us how a profit and loss statement works. Cool. And how you use a cap rate to essentially multiply the bottom line, and the property's worth more. And at the time I went back to school. I was getting my MBA. Tanner had become a full-time realtor. And so the lights started to turn on for us
Mm-hmm.
in commercial real estate. So we went and met with a local broker, really to get more names of owners so that we could keep trying to sell Valley Trash to them. But at the end of the meeting, half joking, Tanner said, "Hey, we'd like to buy an apartment someday." And the broker, being a good salesman, said, "All right, I've got this 16 unit townhome complex. You guys should take a look at it." And so we brought it to our Eagles group,
Yeah.
and most everybody said, "No, that's too risky. Like, keep flipping houses and buying duplexes like that. That works. Just do that."
Yeah.
Except one guy who had started a gym and had personal training clients, had some wealthy personal training clients. And the line was, "I've got some oil and gas clients and they've got a private jet. So I think they have money. Maybe they could help us with the down payment."
Buy this apartment complex.
Yeah. And so that started our syndication model of buying commercial real estate, meaning we use friends and family investors who invest in the property, in the asset with us, and we buy commercial real estate. So,
Wow. So I know that's I know that's a summary, and the story could be a lot longer because, you're collecting your no's, you're doing your valet trash thing, right? And you're talking to these apartment complex owners and learning how the game is played. You find an apartment, but I guess what I'm taking away from this, and maybe for the people who are listening, is like just sticking with it whenever it's not going well. Like, I love the collecting your nose idea. I don't know. I was thinking about me trying to date girls in high school. I was collecting a lot of no's too. But when you're learning through that process of failure and not giving up, like, I know that when you guys first found that apartment complex, it's not like you knew how to find that money. You didn't have it sitting in your checking account. So I'm sure there was a process, right? Of like, it wasn't like Steven came to you the next day and he's like, "Hey, I happen to know some guys with a jet," right? I mean, there was probably a lot of effort and conversations that were part of that, right?
yeah. So I mentioned goal setting earlier, and that's been a big part of, my personal journey as well as my professional journey. And it really gets down to envisioning a future that is worth pursuing. And so
Yeah.
writing down a goal and then reverse engineering every step along the way to get there. And so that's how we've approached every problem in every business and every season, is what is the result we want to achieve? And then as a group and as a team, we break that down to what do I need to do each week to move closer to that. And we've made that a part of the culture of our business. And it's still something, we don't have our Eagles group that meets every week at this point.
Yeah.
But we meet in different forms regularly, still in all around goal setting and goals for our life, whether it's, fitness and family and our faith is really what that it's focused around now. That was a really good thing to start my career, going from 0 to 1.
Yeah.
But now as we scale our business, you need different things. And so I've hired executive coaches and professional coaches to help me get to the next level on that. But yeah, I guess to answer that, it's all about goal setting.
Yeah.
And then reverse engineering in an intentional, intelligent way to break down problems to, their incremental steps.
Well, I love that because obviously with Stag Business Coaching, that's a big part of what we emphasize with people we work with, and trying to go through that goal setting process. Honestly, I think a lot of that I have in me, I learned from being your friend. And full disclosure for everyone, I was one of the guys that came into that Eagles group late in the game, towards the end there. But, that idea of having like-minded people that help lift you up. And I know I've heard you say this before, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's so powerful to think in that way. And I was thinking about that Eagles group and the people who are in it. And a lot of those guys are now business owners. And I don't think that's by accident that's, the trajectory that a group of people who, start out like get out of debt club, like you're talking about, but now doing really well in their life because of that goal setting process and mastermind, you know, taking the wisdom of the group kind of mindset, reading lots of books. Okay, I got to ask, because I don't know if everybody listening would know this. How many books do you read a year? And then I also want to know, because I know you started goal setting about this, what, like in 2014 or something? You remember?
2012 was
2012
was the first year.
So how many books have you read in that time? And how many are you reading, say, in a year or any set amount of time?
All right. I'm a big list guy, and I have different apps, but I use Goodreads to keep track of this. And since then, I've read 388 business books.
Wow.
So
just business books.
There's some fiction in there, but that
388 since 2012.
Since 2012.
Wow, that's an impressive number. And you have a blog that you put your book reviews on, right?
Yeah. I started. Well, okay. Full disclosure.
Yeah.
Whenever I read Harry Potter, in like 5th grade, I had a little notebook that I wrote chapter summaries of every Harry Potter book.
Nice.
And that is hidden. So I don't even know where that is anymore, but
the original review.
I haven't really said that out loud to anybody except like my family.
I knew I was going to learn something new today.
Yeah. So that started early, and it's really how I learn is I read and then try to distill that down to, its basic parts.
Yeah.
And so I've done that for a long time. I've done it a little more officially in the last 3 or 4 years, where I've kept a blog, and it's really a tool for myself. Is I read something, I'm underlining, I'm highlighting, I'm dog-earing pages, and then I go and summarize that and distill that down to, all right, these are the basic steps. This is my number one takeaway, and I just started to write that down.
Well, I've looked at your blog for the years that it's been online, and it's always a good place to go to get ideas for the next read. And I'm always looking for an A or A+, so I can, all right, I got to get that one. What's the web URL again?
Yeah, it is albertgillispie.com.
Okay. Gill is pie.
Gill is pie.
Yeah, spelled Gillespie without an E in the middle. Okay. So we got kind of a sense of your early days and what made you who you are, and then talked about getting started in business. So what other ventures are you involved in, or boards or things like that you're doing in the, beyond your work life, whether it's in, giving back in the community, church? I know that you're on some boards and some associations. Could you speak to a few of those?
Yeah. I guess still career adjacent is the apartment association.
Okay.
And so the local...
And you're the president.
Yeah, I'm president for a second term, which is not intentional. But, 9 years ago, whenever we started going to apartment association events, really just to meet people and try to sell valet trash, we were, scared to death, hiding in the corner, terrified to talk to anybody. And, 8-9 years later, I'm the second term president.
Yeah. You went from being the guy who wanted to take out the trash to being the president. I like it.
Here we go. The Lord has other plans.
Yeah.
And Tanner is current vice president at large for the Texas Apartment Association.
Oh.
And what that has been for us is a really intentional network building thing, where you're in a room with people who have been there, done that, seen the good, seen the bad. And when you build a real relationship with those people, whenever, the bad comes, and it will, you have people to talk to lean on, to ask questions, to help navigate, the bigger issues. And then, as we grow our business and I'm looking to make hires, I know the rock stars. I know the people who are trying to grow because they're going to all of these events. They're going to all of these conferences. And that's been invaluable. And when we're looking to buy commercial real estate, knowing the other owners who are selling that goes a long way.
Yeah.
It's a big transaction, and a lot of trust is required. And so that's been invaluable, and has grown me as a leader and public speaker and all the above. And so continue to be involved there.
What about your alma mater? I know you went to Lubbock Christian University.
I went to LCU. That's what brought me to Lubbock in 2006 and never left. But a couple of years ago, I was asked to join the board of trustees, which the average age is like mid 60s, and I'm 36. And so definitely, the young guy in the room.
Bringing down the average.
Yeah, exactly. Bringing down the average. But that has been one of the more impactful things I've done in my life. Other guys and gals on that board are all giants in their professional lives. They've done incredible things, but they're also giants for the kingdom.
That's awesome.
And man, just to be a fly on the wall in that room and have any of that rub off on you.
Yeah.
There's one of the guys on the board helped bring fracking to the Permian. Like one of the most impactful things for all of West Texas. And during COVID was helping start micro churches around town.
Oh, wow.
Where he lives. And to have that perspective, to have that, burning fire for the kingdom. And he's in his mid 60s. He's not a spring chicken.
Yeah.
And just to have the energy to continue to do that, to continue to pursue, kingdom work like that is inspiring.
That's very cool.
And anyway, and so getting to pour into that. And I honestly, I've been poured into so much being on that board, but so much of, the interns that worked for us, we've developed a mentoring program for the School of Business, and getting to kind of pour back into those kids and bring it full circle.
Yeah, that's got to be very rewarding. But I'm sure, you're talking about learning from all the other board members, but I'm sure you're helping them too. They need that younger voice that can kind of connect to those younger ages that are students there, right? So, I'm sure there's a lot that they're getting from your being on the board as well.
Thank you for the compliment. I want to be useful. I think to a degree, we all want to feel like we serve other people well.
Yeah.
And in a meaningful way. And for the kingdom, I want to be useful.
Yeah.
And, I am a blunt instrument. I am a hammer just looking for a nail. And a lot of times, being super empathetic or preaching or anything like that, I wasn't built for that. This tool was not built for that.
That's all right.
And so finding a place where I can use my unique gifts, my unique abilities, the talents that God has given me to serve the kingdom is motivating, is, exciting, is fulfilling. And so I'm just trying to lean into that and hold that with an open hand and just serve, because I want to be useful.
So I think that's amazing. And, obviously we're both men of faith and followers of Jesus. And, I love the humility in what you're saying and just the desire to serve and want to learn from other people. And I'm just thinking about some of the people who might be listening, they're hearing, you've done really well. You've had a lot of success. You've got the 3 businesses that you're running or an owner on, serving on LCU board, president of the apartment association. What would you say to somebody who's just starting out in their career, or someone who's maybe one of these students you're talking about at LCU that's in the business school or otherwise? What advice would you give to somebody like that about, how do they get to whatever it is that goal they have is? Like, what would you say?
A couple of things. One is, first and foremost, write your goals down. Write it down, put it on paper, seeing it every day, sharing that with other people. It creates accountability. Your mind's aware of it.
Yeah. Power in that.
Yeah. There's your brain starts to observe different opportunities. If I told you, okay, I really want to buy a white Ford pickup and I go out to lunch, I'm going to see a ton of Ford white.
That's so true.
White
when
Ford
you're
pickups.
Buying, it's like you see that car everywhere.
Yeah. And so there's that has value. Secondly is try lots of things. You don't know what you're truly gifted and passionate about until you get out and experience a lot of different things. I thought I wanted to be a dentist.
Yeah.
It turns out I just loved going on global mission trips and seeing the world.
Then you thought you want to be a trash man.
And then I thought I want to be a trash man. And, come to find out, sitting behind a desk, working on a computer and reading, it is something I have a gift for and can enjoy. And then thirdly is build relationships with people that are further along in their career. And it's not, it's not a transaction. It's not a, hi, sir, pleasure to meet you. Will you be my mentor?
Yeah.
It's a real relationship where you get to know the person, you get to know their family and their kids, and you're hearing stories about babies and, the highs and lows of their career. And then when you go to pursue a career or a goal or whatever, you have relationships with people that can make introductions for you. And so I always say, if you're trying to get a job, you need an intermediary. You need someone to make an introduction for you.
Yeah.
Who can vouch for you and vouch for your character, be an advocate.
Yeah.
And that has made a dramatic impact on my life and business is building relationships with people and being that advocate for them, and then asking for them to be an advocate for me.
Yeah. That's so good. I feel like, and I know the way you go about that is genuine. It's not about trying to, this person might be able to help me, so I'm just going to try to go to coffee or something one time. And it's not a transactional thing, like you said. It's real. And there's so much power in that. And oftentimes the relationships that end up opening doors for us are unexpected, don't you think?
I agree.
Just being a person who goes through life, like seeking to serve other people and learn from other people, doors are going to open. And I know I've seen that in your life, and it's been amazing to kind of watch from the sidelines before we started the business coaching venture together, to see how God worked through that talent of yours to just be relational and go out and try things and go after. So yeah, I think that's great advice. And I hope that people, if anybody out there is listening and wondering, like, how could I try to follow in those footsteps or my own version of that? So that's all really good advice. I wanted to wrap up with something that I know is close to your heart, and maybe a little bit more on a personal side, but this is something that both of us care a lot about. We both have young kids, and just being intentional as fathers. And I think maybe some of the things that we've been talking about, some of the principles we've been talking about, translate into that too. So could you just tell us a little bit about, your life as a dad and kind of how you try to be an intentional father?
Yeah. I have two boys, Easton and Barrett. They're 5 and 7, and they are all boy. They are constantly wrestling and fighting and want to be in the mud, and they're all boy. And that's so much fun. And my wife is one of 3 girls. Tristan.
Yeah.
She has 2 sisters, and
so she wasn't expecting to be a boy mom.
No, she was not ready for it, but is the best boy mom I could imagine. Yeah. She is constantly, coming up with different schemes and projects for them to do around the house and ways to help, and then making room for them to be messy and just all boy. And
awesome.
She's an amazing boy mom. As a dad, a good book, Intentional Father by John Tyson, is a very prescriptive book where he goes through different steps to basically initiate a boy into manhood. And one of the premises from the book is that's a lot of what's wrong in our society is as men, we are self-initiating. And when we don't have a guide, when we don't have someone walking us through that, that's where a lot of the toxic masculinity or even, complete lack of masculinity is so prevalent in our culture. And anyway, as a dad, I try to be really intentional with that. We put everything in its proper place. Sports for us is all about building a growth mindset.
Yeah. Same with ours. Feel the same.
If that, this sport becomes their life's ambition, great. Let's pour some gas on it and burn it down. Let's do it. But what I do want my boys to experience, and this is what rodeo was for me, what was starting out and being terrible.
Yeah.
And then putting in the work, training, practicing,
being part of a team,
learning from people
or coaches. Yeah.
And then saw success. And from that, I've applied that to every area of my life there's a growth mindset that I developed as, a 6-year-old kid, that whatever problem we come to, we can adapt and learn and seek other people, and we can conquer it. And so right now, that's kind of the season we're in right now. We're in youth sports and keep that in its proper place.
Yeah.
We're him getting better, both of them getting better.
Yeah. Because
of putting the work in is the goal.
We talk so much about that with our kids too. And I think a lot of parents lose sight of, I feel like there's so many parents that just want their kid to be a pro someday, and not losing sight of the fact that, your kid's probably statistically not going to be a professional athlete someday. But that doesn't mean that sports don't have a great value. But I think a lot of parents lose sight of the fact that it's instilling that growth mindset, like you said, and the value of struggling when you're not good at this, or you're still trying to get better. And I just love that. And that applies in so many areas of life. I felt the same about my experience growing up and being in sports. Nobody was scouting me for anything, but I'm so grateful that I learned from it and had that in my life. And I think for boys especially. And then something else that you touched on for the John Tyson book, Intentional Fatherhood, just, you said initiating kind of your journey into becoming a man. And I think a lot of boys and parents today are struggling with that, don't you?
Yeah. Even, a boy understanding what does it mean to be a man?
Yeah.
What does it mean to provide for and protect your family?
Yeah.
What does it mean to lead your family, be the Christian leader in your family? And being able to model that intentionally and teach that through really practical lessons, or even learning life skills, in an intentional way, so you feel that you're a capable and competent man, and building confidence. And I love this is, arrogance is fake competence. And you gain confidence from experiencing things, being bad at it, and then developing capability.
Yeah.
And so once you have experience and then capability, then you develop confidence. And I want to instill that in my boys as well, is true competence, because they've been there. They were okay with being bad at something. It's okay. It's okay it's okay to suck at something for
Right.
for a season. And you develop capability, and then there's confidence because you know how to do it. You've been there, you've seen it go good, you've seen it go bad, and then you know how to navigate life with true confidence.
Yeah. It's good. And I think it's good when you can model that for your boys and be there for them, that intentionality of making time on a regular basis to just pour into them. And I know you do that. I know you arrange your time very carefully so that you can be an intentional father. You were at breakfast with one of them this morning, I think, weren't you?
Yeah, dude's breakfast. This is my 5-year-old is in pre-K, and we've got one more one-on-one dude's breakfast next week, and I have feelings about that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let that bury that deep right now.
Yeah, those are bittersweet milestones when you hit them, but it's really cool. And I think all of this, if you just kind of take all the things that we've talked about today, whether it's, learning some grit from your bull riding experience, or, going through the process of, learning from mentors and the Eagles group, and working hard and failing and collecting your nose, but then finding a path forward. And now as a father, so much of it is all just about that idea of being intentional. I think that's what goal setting is, isn't it? It's like, I know what I'm going after, and I'm going to not just have a dream. I'm going to systematically start with that goal in mind and work back to what I need to be doing today to get towards that. You know, your books that you read, the people you're surrounding yourself with. I think there's so many good things, good takeaways that I hope people who are listening will see and want to be inspired by. So I guess that's a good place for us to end. So thank you, Albert, for sharing so much with us today. And we look forward to our next episode. We'll be talking to some other members of the team here. But thanks for your time, Albert.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
All right. Tune in next time for the Business Growth Masterclass podcast.